welcome to The Sinner and the Saint. I'm Melissa Bell.
And I'm Allison Kane.
So we are doing role reversal today because every now and then we like to throw y'all a curveball.
Absolutely.
So this is going to be more scattered than normal because I'm in charge of the podcast today. So hang on tight, friends.
It will not be scattered. It will be amazing.
It will be something. So I have a question. Do you think we can create our own happiness?
With Jesus?
I mean, yes. That's the ultimate happiness. But in your everyday life, do you think you can choose happiness?
I definitely think you can choose happiness and choose joy and choose positivity over negativity.
Even in the middle of like the most dramatic, obnoxious, annoying thing ever happening in your life, can you still be happy?
Yeah, you can.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, good. I got it right.
I was listening to this great podcast. You guys know I love podcasts, and I like entrepreneur podcasts. I don't know why. I feel like it's my college education since I didn't go. And so I was listening to Ed Milet.
Okay.
Again, Ed Milet. Everyone does not understand when I say that. It's Ed Milet, the Max Out podcast. It's for entrepreneurs. And he was making a case for you can choose to be happy and blissful. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, I want to hear about this. And where was this 25 years ago? So we are going to save you guys from more grief and kind of like deep dive a little bit into this idea.
Okay.
You ready for it?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the premise is that we all have patterns in our life.
Agreed.
Some of them are conscious patterns. Mm-hmm. Like you get up every morning, you brush your teeth, you go do the coffee, walk the dog. Some of them are subconscious or unconscious patterns that you're not even aware that you're running all the time.
Yes.
And these patterns, every single one of them serve you in one way or another. Mm-hmm. Meaning, you could say like, well, no, I got in this big fight and then like, that's not a pattern that I started having a conversation with my spouse and then we got in this big fight and the next thing you know, we're not talking. I don't choose that. And Ed says, I think you do. Mm-hmm. Because if you choose to get into a big fight, then you can avoid the real problem.
True. And
put it on the back burner for yet another day or another month.
We call those coping mechanisms.
Coping mechanisms, okay. So
in the counseling world.
Some of our patterns help us and get us to where we want to be, and other patterns can sabotage us and keep us exactly where we are or backpedal us, right? And so choosing happy. The first question that I have for you is, in order to choose happy, you have to do something to create bliss or happiness in your life. Mm-hmm. So if you're dying to be happy and you're like sitting there sad, looking at the cold weather again and wondering what the heck, you can choose a pattern and you can do things to create happiness and bliss right where you are in this moment. So do you do anything when you're in a funk to create happiness or bliss? I'm like, if you get in a funk, I don't know if you do.
Oh gosh, yeah. So, sometimes I like to just waddle in it. Like roll around in it for a little. Yeah.
Waddling is kind of cute.
But waddle. Yeah, I just waddle around. Wallow seems more piggish. Waddling seems more duckish and cute.
Okay.
But sometimes I have to do that for a little bit with God and kind of groan and complain so I can come out of it, because it's almost like I need to get it off my chest. So that's important for me, not to stay there, but just I need a pity party sometimes. But a long time ago, I learned that I need a few things that create this balance in my life that help maintain my consistency for happiness and joy.
Right.
And so I realized that those things, it took me a little while to figure out what they were, but for me, it's spending time with God. Uh-huh. It's exercise.
Yes.
It is date night with my husband.
Uh-huh.
Girls' night out.
Mm-hmm.
And was there anything else? I think that's all right now. Yeah.
So if you were like in crisis mode, you would choose one of those. You'd be like, okay.
Absolutely.
Because what happens is we're not suggesting you take whatever's really hard and shoving under the rug and pretending, because that's going to get you nowhere.
No,
that's just
yeah,
going to pile up and like come falling out of the closet at one point. But what you're saying is, I sit with God, we acknowledge what's happening, we hash it out a little bit, and then I go choose to do something that's going to create happiness in my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it depends on what's going on.
Right.
You know, like when my dad died and there was so much grief, like mostly it was that time spent with God.
Yes.
That like was my lifeline.
Yep.
Because, you know, we were just, anyway. But it was also being outside and exercise, because it was a lot of walks on the beach and talks with God.
Right.
So there was like that sunshine factor. Yeah, so I think I need more of those things. I try to keep them all consistently balanced so that I'm not in a negative position when a crisis occurs.
Right.
Because when I'm fueled up and hit a crisis, it's like when you are low on gas and you get into a traffic jam, you're in trouble.
Right.
But if you have a full tank of gas and you're in a traffic jam, it's not as stressful, it's annoying, but you have a full tank of gas.
Right.
So there are a few other problems that aren't going to hit.
Right.
You're not going to be in a traffic jam and run
effect.
out of gas and cause another traffic jam. But then you, of course, want to be out of the traffic jam. Anyway, that's how I look at it.
Right. So your first little bit of homework is to really evaluate what it is that makes you happy and fills you up and helps you refocus. Because honestly, there are times in our lives when something that's going on can be so big that it could take all of our attention and focus, and it deserves all of it. But that would be to our demise.
Right.
And so we have to choose. I'm like, when I'm having something big going on, which is often, I choose to go, okay, I'm going to deal with this for 10 minutes. Y'all, I will set a timer. I'll be like, I am only going to do this for 10 minutes. And the truth is, I was recently talking with someone and they said, well, why do you, or how do you, stay so positive? And I said, I'm afraid that if I allow myself to sit with all of the things that have happened for too long, I'll never get out. Oh. I'm afraid it's going to open up something and I will not ever be able to control it and get out. So I've created a reflex to go, I'm going to dive into this. I'm going to take a shower, cry about it, talk about it. I'm going to sing a praise song, get out, and move on. But it's a reflex. I didn't realize that most people don't know, or some people don't do that. I'm learning. Okay, number 2.
We all are.
Right?
Okay, number 2.
We're always learning. If there's breath in our lungs, there is something for you to learn.
Always.
Yes. What are you doing to help others experience happiness or bliss? Because oftentimes, if we're experiencing a hard thing and we have a hard time allowing ourselves to feel joy, if we start to create joy for somebody else, the natural effect is we're so excited that they're excited that we're going to get the joy. Do you think that to be true?
I do. I mean, one of the things that I love is sharing and guiding, teaching others how to do Lectio Divina. Because that brings me so much joy, so much closeness with God, so much connection. And it brings me joy to introduce something that most people have never heard of, never experienced, and it's so out of their norm.
Right.
And they're like, wow. Because that is a discipline and a gift you can give someone that they could take. I mean, it's their responsibility for what they do with it, right?
Right.
I can't make them do it, but you're giving someone a gift to do that. Also walking with other people, and having conversation and just letting them talk. That I think creates joy and healing in others. And then when my husband and I go on a date, and you go out with your friends. I mean, together and you're creating joy for each other.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And last week, we were talking about like meeting people in their time of need, and you were saying like bring flowers or a card or send text. I think sometimes you can bring people joy just because you're a joyful person.
True.
And that actually is question number 3. How blissful are you to be around? If you are pursuing happiness and bliss, if that's what you're telling yourself, that I really want to be happy and we're all in the pursuit of happiness, are you even happy? Like, are you joyful to be around? Because we often attract what we put out. So if you look around, you're like, everyone is really lame around me. Everyone's so sad. Everyone's Eeyore. Maybe look at yourself and ask yourself, am I a happy, joyful person to be around? And what do I give off?
So this is interesting that you bring this up. I was having a conversation with someone recently, and they were talking about a friend of theirs. And they said, I've really had to create some space because, and not been able to spend as much time with this person because they are so negative, so judgmental, not happy, like a little bit almost angry, not in their response maybe to that person, but in response to other people just answering the telephone.
Right.
It's almost like they're angry and rude at whoever they're talking to. And it's been so just uncomfortable and disconcerting that they've created space from that person.
Yep, I've been there.
Now it ends up that person has recognized it. But now they're trying to figure out, like, how honest are they really ready to hear that truth? Because sometimes people are and sometimes they're not, as to why. So it'd be better if they would think about it for themselves and ask the hard questions. So we're in prayer. I'm in prayer with this person about that particular question. Like, is this person ready to hear the truth about why that distance has been created? But so I share that to say what you say is true. I mean, when everybody has a bad time, a bad day, a bad season. Yeah. So, this has apparently been going on for a while. This isn't like, dude had a bad day and now I don't like hanging out with. It's not like that.
Right.
And so it's just, when it becomes a pattern and it weighs everyone else down, it's difficult to want to hang out with people like that.
And it is interesting because as we grow in our faith and we mature and we choose happy or joy, or it makes people uncomfortable, and people that are not comfortable with growing will try to pull you back.
Wow, that is such a true statement.
They want to hold you back because misery, as they say, loves company. But then I saw it where it says, and so does joy, and joy throws a better party.
Yes. Well, it reminds me of those verses in Philippians 4, I think, like verse 11 through 12. He starts out, I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want.
Have you ever heard somebody say...
Guess what it is?
Right. Have you ever heard somebody say, like, you're just, like, it's fake happy. You're being fake. You're ignoring what's really going on. What do you think about that?
I think that some people do bury stuff and put on a happy face in a crowd. I think that some people push it down, and that's probably why that comes out angry, not joyful as much. I think some people can fake it till they make it, but they don't really make it. But I also think that people who say that are being judgmental and a little jealous.
Right.
Because there are people who, when you truly, as Paul was saying in these verses from Philippians, like, I know how to live in every circumstance. Yes. Well, the answer is God. Because if you've listened to this podcast for 10 seconds or more, it's always about God. And it's like, that's where the joy comes from.
Right.
That's an inner joy that can't be taken away from circumstance or anything. And when you don't have that and you see someone who does have that and you don't understand it, it may seem fake. Or you may realize that it's actually genuine, but you don't understand how that could be possible. So you just
assume that it's fake.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or just call it fate because it makes you feel better.
Right.
I mean,
Wow, that's so interesting. And it is God. I mean, that verse, I had it, written out for a long time just to remind myself of that. And you and I can both say, like, we'll stand on the top of the roof and say, hey, listen, the only way we can make it is because we choose to look at God and find joy, right?
it's so true.
I think one of the greatest things that I do when I find myself feeling like I'm going into a little, rut
Spiral.
or whatever, I will go for a walk.
Uh-huh.
And undoubtedly, halfway through, I'll start singing praise songs. Because we're together, God and I.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, I'm just praising him. By the end of the walk, I'm not even sure what I was frustrated about. It'll come back and haunt me. But,
Yeah.
but it is so true. Like, when you're in the presence of God,
Things fall away.
yeah.
And I'm not saying the problem solves itself or that it disappears completely, but your perspective changes often in those moments with God, and because of him. I mean, he always looks at things differently. We have to look at things kind of upside down to even try to understand the way God sees them, because it's never the way we think or maybe even what we want. Yeah.
So if I were Melissa 10 years ago and I heard this podcast and just outside looking in, I would think, well, that's easy for them to say.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That they can say that. They don't know
what I'm going through.
Right. And I will tell you that we know what you're going through. We have been in the darkest pits, and God has brought us out. And so you guys will always hear the hard stories because they're not for the world's consumption.
Right.
Because
they involve more than just us.
Right.
It's not our story to tell.
We know. And so if you feel like we don't understand you, and you want us to talk with you a little bit, send us a DM, because I know what it's like to be that person and look at someone and go, well, it must be nice for you.
Yeah.
But that'll never be me, because this is where I come from. And God has turned that story completely around for me.
I don't know, between the two of us, we might have covered a lot of topics.
We covered a lot.
We've covered, not topics, but issues and dilemmas.
It's like you don't know about this, but on Facebook, they have these things. It's like, oh, well, choose a point for every single one of these that you have experienced, and then, you're that much richer, or, for everything you've experienced, you get $1,000.
Oh.
Girl, we would be on vacation for the rest of our lives.
Yes.
But I'll close out by saying, Ed Milet says, not choosing is still a choice. If you're not choosing, you're allowing your trauma to choose for you. You're allowing your normal cycle to choose. So you actually are choosing by not choosing. You're choosing to not do anything about it. So if you're not happy consistently, you might be not choosing. And in doing so, you're stuck, right? And it says your current level of joy, happiness, success, fulfillment is exactly what you think you deserve. And it's exactly what you think you are worth. And that is hard to hear.
That is hard to hear. I would also say the way that you think other people see you in situations, in social settings, in business meetings is actually the way you think of yourself. And you are taking those thoughts of yourself and projecting them onto yourself from the other person.
Right.
And it's not from them at all. And straight from the words of Dr. Clark. The mouth of Dr. Clark. So
Dr. C, y'all.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't get in to see him because he's booked, but hey.
And for the Christians out there who we can be so quick to be like, well, those patterns, those choices that aren't the best ones that we'll choose, those things that we believe, well, that's just Satan at work again. That's just the devil. Okay, maybe, but sometimes he is on vacation because we've taken that on as a truth in our minds and our hearts, and he doesn't have to say it.
Right?
You're saying it, we're saying it to ourselves.
Yes.
And we're believing it. And we're choosing to believe it. And that's a choice. And it's time to flip the script.
Flip the script. I love that.
There you go, people. I don't know. That was a great topic. I think you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
As
I had
always.
lots of notes, y'all. All right. So, hey, this week, choose happy. Try to find maybe some patterns that aren't serving you well and are pulling you further away from happiness, and choose differently.
Absolutely. Flip the script. Thanks for joining us this week on The Sinner and the Saint.